So we are Group London, and we are doing Chapter 11. Chapter 11 was entitled, it had to do with unintended consequences, and our board represents some of the unintended consequences. So you have regulation with good intention to protect the U.S. textile and apparel industries from imports through quotas and tariffs, but the actual result might be different than the intention. And for instance, textile employment continues to decline. But does it decline because it's going elsewhere, or does it decline because of technology advancements? The book seems to imply that it's really technology advancements and that this is not going to change anytime soon. So things to consider might include whether the jobs that are being created, which offer higher wages or for different types of jobs, are superior in some way to the laws. Increased difficulty of U.S. firms to forecast due to the complexity of the regulations is also a problem. So you have regulations that are intended to be beneficial, but in fact they become so dense that they're almost impossible to interpret. The U.S. government uses trade agreements as a carrot to hold out. It has a lot of value for connecting with allies, which can conflict with the interests of the textile industry, but actually be beneficial in other ways for the United States and for our country. And so, therefore, sometimes the quotas could actually be a really good thing. Trent?
Yeah, so going along with that, some of the other unintended consequences that all stemmed from the regulation just wanting to protect the U.S. textile industry is you actually had some cheating going on. Like in China, for example, they are mislabeling their t-shirts in order to cheat the quotas. So just something that happens where countries are basically trying to figure out ways to get around that regulation. They also started going, smaller countries at the same time actually ended up benefiting. If you want to talk about, we talk about some issues with it. The unintended winners are really these smaller countries that all of a sudden realized that China was coming to them to get some of their quotas. So China would bounce around. Once they used up all their t-shirt quota, they would jump right into other countries. So that was bringing business to them when they couldn't compete before. And then it also, another one that we illustrated that where they kind of shoot themselves in the foot with regulation is the competitors actually start getting really good at specializing in high-end clothing because they had a limited amount of quota that they could use. So then they started focusing on the higher, pricier stuff and leaving the cheaper stuff to the American companies. And then finally, it actually created a black market in China for quotas, where they actually had dollar value to them, and they actually sold them. Different companies traded and sold quotas. So all of those things kind of illustrate how just the single intention of regulating and protecting the U.S. textile industry, how that can have a whole wide range of unintended consequences, and ultimately didn't actually achieve what they were trying to achieve with the regulation in the first place. And then finally, we provided an additional real-world example. Recently, this article was actually published in June, where they talked about the consequences of the U.S. government mandating that ethanol needs to be in a certain percentage of ethanol needs to be in U.S. fuel, and they actually illustrate how it actually caused market prices to go up around the world, and actually caused quite a few issues for different countries struggling with food and that sort of thing, because the U.S. market was pulling that food in.
Corn specifically,
corn,
which is the time to
ethanol. So that kind of sums up our how regulation specifically can cause a whole bunch of things, and if you're not careful and don't really pay attention to what that regulation can actually do.
Thank you.